has just met up with the management as well as some of the employees to speak to the issues that are pertaining Kusile Power Station, especially with an understanding that Unit 2 is supposed to also go up. And I want to bring him in that conversation, and we'll listen in now.
So that's immense what the team has achieved. But the point is that we need to keep the lights on. And I think in terms of their own internal targets, the EAF of Kusile should be at about 84%, and from all looks of things, they'll be able to achieve it in the next financial year. And then, of course, we have returned unit number 3, normalize it. Remember, we asked for an exemption from the DFFE when we lost the chimney challenges with regards to the chimney and what the flue gas desulfurization unit. So we've been able to get back unit number 3 now. It's been normalized. Unit number 2, end of the month, it will be done, and then we'll work on unit number 1. And it's thanks to the work that Zandi and the team have done, exceptionally impressive. So we're on track. I mean, the point I've been making consistently, that the end of load shedding is within touching distance. Kusile will be key. That synchronization of unit number 6, as I've mentioned. The team confident by early next week we should be on course, and then we'll go to Medupi, get to have a sense of Medupi number 4. So when you put the two together, it's 1,600 megawatts that we think will stand us in good stead when we go into winter. Of course, it will not necessarily be commercial. By that I mean, there will be challenges as you synchronize this. We'll take it out, bring it back until we are satisfied. But the team is on track. I think that's the best, the good message and what we want to convey to the rest of the country.
Minister, we know that obviously Kusile is very important, but the question is, if Kusile Unit 2 comes up, what does that mean for the grid?
Oh, well, when Unit 2 comes, remember what we are resolving now is to normalize the situation. Remember sometime, I think 2023 or so, we removed, because of the challenges with regards to the chimney, so we removed Unit 1, 2, and 3. And then we asked DFFE for a dispensation to allow us to have an interim arrangement. We had a temporary stack, which means that we're not necessarily going to completely meet our requirements with regards to the air quality and the emissions, but we said it's a temporary arrangement. DFFE allowed us that situation. We have brought back unit number 3. Now it's connected to the chimney, and then we're bringing back unit number 2. Should happen by before the 1st of April. But as we bring it back, we take out unit number 1 for the same purpose. So the net is 0. But what is important is that the units that are on load must remain on load. We'll work on synchronizing unit number 6. Like I've said, the team has given us an assurance that despite the challenges, which are normal by the way, there's nothing out of the ordinary what they're experiencing, early next week we should have a synchronized unit number 6. So there will be a net positive of 800 megawatts, preparing ourselves going into winter. But remember that how we keep the lights on. First we focus on the individual unit, the power station, then is the performance of the entire fleet. Is very important. That's why we had to go to Kendal, Letabo. We'll go to all the power stations as part of the preparation for the winter and keeping the lights on and the economy going. So we're in the right direction, and thanks to Chris, who's a GM, and thanks also to Zandi, who's responsible for bringing this massive project online, and we really want to commend them for the excellent work that we are doing. So living here, I'm confident about the prospects, keeping the lights on, and Kusile contributing as expected.
Minister, there's a report that was released yesterday by the CSIR, which essentially indicates that the demand for electricity for the 2024 financial year has gone down by about 1%. And if you juxtapose that with the remarks made by the CEO of City Power, Chifularo Mashava, yesterday as well, who is indicating that they intend to consider private electricity procurement, moving away from Eskom. As much as you are producing whatever the necessary kilowatts that you as Eskom are producing, are you worried therefore that given the fact that even households and businesses are moving more towards photovoltaic, does it worry you that you will produce electricity which people may not be willing to buy?
Well, first is that we're executing against the Energy Action Plan. That Energy Action Plan has got 5 outcomes. Outcome number 4 is acceleration of rooftop solar solutions, so behind the meter intervention. So the kind of efforts that households are making is part of that effort. And that's why in the Minister of Finance, not necessarily in this budget, the preceding budget, we provided incentives for households to go in that direction. So we are resolving both sides of the coin. The generation side, which is what Mr. Nxumalo is doing, and the demand side. So if there are other ways of ensuring that you reduce demand, or there's alternative sources of generation, self-generation, we're going that route. So it's part of the mix. And then there's the second one is the fact that when households go that route, what it means for Eskom is that Mr. Nxumalo then will focus on the large intensive users. So these are big industries to help us to anchor the South African economy. So it's not a negative. Of course, Eskom is in the business of selling electricity. That's how Eskom makes money. So we really want to keep people buying from Eskom, hence this improvement at Kusile. We've invested a lot of money, billions of rand. We need to repay that amount. No, it's not a worry to me. On the city power side, it's a downstream, localized issues. We'll get to understand what the CEO is saying. But yes, I mean, if you look at the Electricity Regulation Amendment, the Act, it makes provision for new players to come on stream. What it says to Eskom is that it must be an efficient producer. There's competition coming. The net benefit is to the end consumer.
But is that not harming Eskom's bottom line, Minister?
No. What Eskom will do, first, Eskom will continue to strive to be an efficient producer, so that you produce cheaper, more efficiently than what competition is. If it's households, it's fine. Let's proceed that way. And then we know that now when the lights are on, there's greater demand on the grid from the large intensive users, and then we'll be able to support those. I mean, the fact that we've got close to 10 smelters that are closed. I mean, if we're to push work with Glencore, Manco as an example, to get the smelters running, we'll need an additional 4,500 megawatts in total. If they were to open tomorrow, we don't have that. So the more you have people generating alternatively, Mr. Nxumalo and the team have got space to support the industry and the South African economy. So it's a mix of the above. So it's not one over the other. They work together. It's a generation side, it's a demand side, and that's how we're going to get out of this situation.
And of course, Minister, there's also NALSA that's just at this point approved the increase. Could you perhaps give us an idea in terms of that approval? What does this mean for someone who's at home? Especially, is electricity getting more costly? What happens now?
Oh, yes. I mean, it was a robust, intense process run by NERSA. NERSA function at an arm's length from the minister so that it doesn't get to be influenced by political considerations. But I think it's important that we appreciate that the Eskom needs to make reinvestments, needs to recover that money, balance it with the fact that the economy is not performing. You want to get industry more competitive. Households are under pressure. NERSA arrived at a determination 12.7%. That's what they'll give to Eskom. So those that are buying from Eskom are going to pay 12.7% more than what was the situation in the last financial year. But it gets worse, unfortunately, for those that are supplied by municipalities. Because what municipalities will do, the bulk they are buying from Eskom increases by 12.7. Municipalities, because they also provide infrastructure for reticulation, they are going to add an additional surcharge. And again, for that, it has to be approved by NERSA. It's not a foregone conclusion, but it's likely going to be more than that for those that are supplied by municipalities. So what's the greater point here? Acceleration of behind-the-meter intervention, rooftop solar solutions, because we know that it's cheaper, it's cleaner, but it's not always available. So that's the point. Eskom will always remain a backstop. So if we have inclement weather like we are experiencing, we've been experiencing the past 2 weeks or so, the sun is not shining, that's your fuel source. So there's no electricity you are drawing. You can have the best technology, PV and battery storage. There's nothing to store because the source of energy is not there. Your fuel is the sun is not there. What do? You draw from Eskom. So that's why I'm saying the two goes together. You will never have. There's very few people that are free from Eskom. They are not connected to the grid. I'm not familiar with anyone who's not connected to the grid, who get this reliable sub. Because at all material times, they are going to rely on Eskom. And really, I'm talking of the large intensive users. They are entering into the PPAs, doing everything possible, solar PV paired with battery. If it's raining, the sun is not out for 24 hours, your fuel source is not there, there's nothing to store, you are going to revert back to Eskom. That's why I make the point that Eskom is a supplier of last resort. Eskom is a backstop, and that's why we need to make sure that Eskom continues to be an efficient producer, and in that way we are going to guarantee electricity for the country.
But what does that mean then in terms of NESA for Eskom specifically? How does that filter down into the infrastructure, like you say, that you've been working on, the employees that have been unhappy? How does this increase filter down to Eskom?
Well, on the employee side, like I'm visiting, is my fourth round visit to power station. So I know that Mr. Nxumalo and the team have introduced performance-related bonuses. If you perform, the lights are on, the employees are very happy. When I go to a station where they are not happy, I tell them they can change that situation, get the light on, the station must perform. And I must say that they've improved that situation. On the Eskom side, yes, they asked for a 36% increase, but the economics don't make that not feasible. 36% increase we can give to Eskom. They need that money to reinvest. But we are going to have an industry that is uncompetitive. So what do they do when they are not uncompetitive? They reduce capacity utilization, or they close shop. Worst case, people are laid off, and then households will not be able to afford that electricity, or putting more pressure on them. So NERSA had to balance that situation. They arrived at 12.7%. Eskom must live with that reality. I made the point to the Eskom board. The era of double-digit tariff increases is over. I don't think you're going to see it in the foreseeable future, because there are new players in the space who say, I can do it better than Eskom, I can do it cheaper, more efficiently, I'll also be reliable. Mr. Nxumalo knows that. So what is Eskom doing? The Nxumalo and the team, led by Mr. Marukane and the board, they are putting together some of the programs that they are bringing to the minister to ensure that we play in the clean energy space. I emphasize clean because it's not just solar and PV. There are other ways of generating clean electricity. That is also base load. So the plans are stacked up. It's just going through the governance approvals inside the Eskom at the board level. I am ready. Eskom will be defended. Eskom's position will be protected, but they know that there's competition. When I say protected, I mean Eskom is a provider of last resort. When everything fails, when the PPAs collapse for one reason or the other, you are going to go to Mr. Nxumalo Eskom to seek that electricity. That's why Kusile must keep on running so that we assure and guarantee provision of electricity in the country.
Final one, Minister, with the developments coming out of the United States, the new president, clearly an indication, and something that you also admitted, that the chances are that they may not keep their promise to contribute towards the just energy transition, the billions that were expecting from the United States in particular. If we come back home and say, with the budgetary constraints that we are encountering, with your intention to go ahead with a nuclear to generate electricity, expand on the nuclear that we have, looking at the budgetary constraints, how does that stand? Do you think South Africa will still proceed to build a nuclear plant?
So first, the issues of diplomatic issues, our relationship with the U.S. and how we respond. The center is one, President Ramaphosa will announce, and of course, Minister Lamola. So I won't enter into that space, because I think the discipline of engaging in this conversation around the space, it's important, so that you don't have multiple voices just speaking. It's not free for all. The president is giving direction. Minister Lamola will give effect to that and pull all of us together. And coming to a more specific question, no, we did say that they were pursuing all types of technologies, including small modular reactors. So our position is not necessarily a function of what other jurisdictions are saying. Our position is a function of science, it's a function of technology, and the pace and scale that the country can afford. And I did make the point that we will go that route. We must answer the question pace and scale. I finalized the issue of the team that will be advising me. We needed to engage with them because they are from all over the world, and then we'll make that pronouncement soon. So we'll pursue our sovereign agenda, sovereign interest. Of course, we do accept that who are living in a multilateral world. We leave that to the President and Minister Lamola. But from a generation side, we'll do our best to keep the lights on using the latest technology, the most efficient, so that you don't pass on the cost to the end consumer, to industry. We must remain competitive. It must be cleaner, it must be reliable, it must be efficient. We've got the experience. What Mr. Ngumalo is doing at Kubek, wonderful work. So we've got that experience, and we know other parts of the world are doing it. So we'll pursue our sovereign interest in the energy space and leave the issues of diplomacy, how we respond to the President and Minister Lamola.
Thank you very much,
Dr.
Minister.
Kgosientsho Ramokgopa,
That's the Minister of Electricity, Imani, speaking to us, of course, about what is happening here. You'll remember, Kusile, very important. We're told that 6 units are going to be operational. Well, that's the maximum that Kusile can have. However, we are told that as the unit comes up, another one is going to be pulled out. So this is mainly to ensure that the power station is able to give enough power. So a lot of work that still is yet to be done within this power station.
Yeah, nice to hear the days of double-digit tariff increases